All right, let's do our pre-season predictions. So, once again, I've given Jack and Peter several categories, 7 in total, and we'll lock them in a safe, and then come May, we'll see how we get on. So, the first one: where will Fulham finish, Jack?
16th.
Oof. Okay.
That's it.
That's what I've got.
That's quite low.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously things can change, but right now I'm really worried about the quality of this side, and I'm worried about the quality of the sides. The quality of the sides may be a little bit unfair, that where this side are going to be on deadline day, and the players that have come in as replacements. I think Bassey's a really good signing. I really like him, but I'm a little bit wary of the fact that he comes into a place in this team where I think Tim Ream is so important in terms of marshalling the back line and where that kind of works out. And I'm just a bit wary that our signings at this point don't hugely feel like we've raised the bar all that much. And that's what concerns me. That obviously you bring depth in, all of these things. I think that, there's been rumours in the last 10 minutes that Callum Hudson-Odoi's deal is closer to being finalised than it was 20 minutes ago. But, that's the kind of signing that I think might be able to raise that bar. But right now I'm looking at the rest of this table. I'm looking at the teams that finished below us last year. Looking at Bournemouth in particular, who I think have had a really good summer, who have brought in a really good manager in Iraola. And I think that they could be in the position that Fulham were in last year, where they're comfortable away from it and just sort of maybe on the edge of European football. I think that we've seen sides come up. I really worry for, and we'll talk about it, but Luton and Sheffield United. But generally, I can't see all that many teams that I'm looking at in this division. Even someone like an Everton, right, who I think just will be able to grind those results out at home. I feel like they'll be in the similar kind of position to where we will be, and that worries me quite a lot.
Yeah. Peter, right. Where will Fulham finish? What does that crystal ball on your phone say?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I reacted like that to your 16th, because I've gone 15th.
Ooh, one place higher.
For similar reasons, I think. I just think there's so much uncertainty at the moment around the team, and I think the players that have come in look good. But as Jack was saying, I think what made Fulham so good last year was the balance that they had with the players available, and I think. Reams is sort of the intangibles and the way he can dictate play from deep, I think, is really important. Obviously, he's not gone anywhere, so let's see when he comes back from fitness. The Mitrovic uncertainty, and I also think that the league is going to be a bit more. I'm trying to find the right word.
Segmented.
Yeah, divided really between top and bottom, and I think last year, and I remember asking Silver this at one point when Fulham were near 6th or 7th, is this a one-off? Is this sort of a one-off opportunity to break into this bracket of positions that can get you into Europe? Because you had Chelsea and Liverpool and Tottenham just
struggling.
Just absolute, calamities really at times. I don't see that necessarily. I mean, it's the Premier League. Anything can happen, and I'm sure there'll be one or two strugglers. But you actually look at, for me anyway, looking at the whole Premier League table, I think the top 10 is almost locked in. There are 8 teams, including Brighton. I mean, there's 7 with an enormous amounts of money that are far on a different level. Brighton are incredibly well run, and I know they've got Europe, but the depth that they have, the way they built their squad, I think they'll still retain that area of the league. Aston Villa are in a different place now.
Yeah,
we've seen that under Unai Emery. That's 9 places. So I think everyone else, it's
how you start. It's so much of this comes down to how you start.
Because that affects the environment around the team.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Fulham's good start last year was like, Fulham are okay, and everything felt calm. But if Fulham start badly or a team starts badly, it's like, oh God.
Well, that's what worried me when the fixture list came out, and we might come on to it. But, a lot of pressure feels like on an Everton away game, a Brentford home game, which is a derby and anything can happen. And then
form goes out the window, mate.
Yeah. And then you've got City and Arsenal, or Arsenal and City, away. So you almost have to just accept that that's 2 losses, barring a miracle.
Yeah, it's 2 losses. If you take anything out, then they're bonuses, but you cannot count on those kind of
But
results.
means
right?
that you have to win one of Everton or Brentford.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going into that international break in September with a bad start,
a
or at
noise
least
factor.
we're low in the table. We might be able to caveat it with we had tough fixtures, but there feels like a lot of pressure on these opening 2 games, and I guess that was the difference last season, was going the first 3 games unbeaten, getting then the 5th win in the 5th game, getting the win against Brighton was probably the big linchpin of last season, where a lot of what our form was based around.
Yeah. You get to that 10-point mark early doors.
Yeah.
If you're in 10 points in September,
It's a pressure valve, isn't it?
yeah, huge pressure valve.
The only other thing, though, is that while the top 10 for me is pretty set, is the
rest of it's
bottom half is
absolute.
it's a
chaos
mess.
pit.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And that is why I have gone for 12th.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
I
I think
think it's perfectly reasonable. Yeah.
I just think that there are plenty. It's easy to catastrophize over your own club. And
I mean, I really hope you're right.
yeah, I know, and I'm totally. And look, I still think that, like, even if we did finish 16th and
Survival
15th,
is fine.
we have to accept that that's okay in year 2 of a Premier League season. I wouldn't be delighted, but, you know, I think it's when you get greedy, or a fan's expectation gets greedy, then often it can slide off a hill and go the other way. So I still think if it was 16th, 15th, it wouldn't be that enjoyable, but it would be absolutely fine. But I think there's enough to be optimistic about. I think you still have to look at our squad, and we've lost one key player, and that's Manor Solomon. Yes, Mitro could go, but he also likely couldn't go, and I think it's honestly still 50-50
Yeah,
as to
agreed.
that. I think that we've strengthened in some key areas. The lineup for the first few games of the season, no Polinia, no Kearney, no Ream, have we got Andreas, is a bit shaky. But you imagine once that September international break's come and gone, and hopefully there's no more new injuries, that Fulham will have a very, very healthy lineup going into an easier run of games come September. So I'm going to say 12th. I mean, it's still a downgrade on last season. So for the fact that feels positive is maybe a bit of a shame. But yeah, we almost have to forget. Last season was very weird, and the World Cup break affects different squads in different ways. But I still think there are enough teams below us that have got worse, or if anything, have got no better.
A few powder kegs as well. You know,
There's definitely some like major ones, and like I'm currently, I won't predict West Ham to go down, but right now, if the season started tomorrow and the window's shut, I would.
Yeah.
So like we're at that kind of point. I'm worried. And you talk about that international break going into that if we went into that international break or naught.
well, I
that
mean,
would
that
be-
would just be a problem at any time, wouldn't it? Mate?
Well, it's 4 games, so it's
Yeah.
not actually, and 2 of them are
Yeah,
against
but-
Arsenal and Manchester
Yeah,
City.
but
So
yeah.
in context, no. But I just think in terms of the way that everything looks, in terms of the way that everything feels, that's the one that I'm like, we shouldn't panic, but people will panic.
yeah.
You don't want it to be Fulham Luton and we're both on 0 points.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No chance. Yeah, no. I have
And
no
there is
interest in
every
that.
chance. I don't think it will be 0, but I think there's every chance it could be 2. And that's still not a great position to be in. A couple of draws, a couple of losses. So if we got a win on Saturday, it would be a huge relief. Huge relief. Right, let's move on to... So in the last couple of years, we've basically done a category which was second top scorer, because Mitrovic is so obvious. But actually, we don't know if Mitrovic is going to stay. So what I've changed it to this year is Mitro amount of goals if he stays is the first category, and then the second category will be top scorer if Mitro leaves. So we'll do them all in one. Peter, I'll start with you. So Mitro amount of goals if he stays.
13.
Okay?
Days. I know that's less than this year, and it kind of doesn't. It's just, I wonder.
He's going to take off penalties.
Well, that's one element.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
very, very sensible...
That's one element, but also, this is the thing, because he missed a third of the season, still got 14 goals last year. This
Yeah.
is what's playing in my mind. So I'm sort of oscillating between above and below, but I'm going to go below just because I think it could possibly be a slower start where he's not playing, and Jimenez might get a run, and then this could be completely wrong, and then he plays all the games and he does really well. We know if Fulham create chances for him, we know the system is built for him to score goals. He will score goals. So I'm am I convincing myself to change that number slightly? But I'll stick with 13.
Yeah, I was going to go 14, same as this year.
Okay.
With probably a similar amount of game time. I think that Peter's right. I'm not 100% sure he's going to... If he doesn't start at the weekend, I think we could not see him start a game for a while. And that could be injured, especially if Ral does well. Like, you know, then suddenly, you know, Silva's always been, you earn your place in the team and you know, it's yours to lose until you do something that justifies being dropped. So I think there will be spells where maybe it isn't quite as easy. But on the whole, yeah, I think if he stays and his head's back in the game, same amount as last year, 14.
I'm going to go 15 if he stays. I think that I would have gone higher, but I think there is a serious possibility that he's off penalties. He has to be. After that whole Man United Old Trafford, surely that was his last chance. Take 4 penalties missed out of 8 in a season is just not good enough. And it didn't cost us a position. We kind of worked that out over a season, but it very much could have. So if it wasn't for the penalties thing, I mean, he will score some of his penalties. I would potentially have gone higher. I think if he stays, he'll be an absolute linchpin in what we do. I think 15 is an optimistic basis of him staying fit and everything else, which hopefully he will, but we'll never know. Second one is top scorer if Mitro leaves. I won't ask you for the amount of goals. I mean, you can add that if you really want. But, yeah, if Mitro leaves, who's the top scorer?
That's a good question. I was sort of torn between Harry Wilson, potentially.
Yeah.
So I can see him potentially having a good season. And he did score a few goals when he played regularly for Bournemouth in the Premier League. But I'm going to go for Andreas Pereira on a set pieces basis as well, because I feel like he'd be... Oh, I guess it's competitive with Willian, though, for penalties, isn't it? But,
yeah.
I'll go Pereira.
I'm going to say Harry Wilson, so that's good.
Okay. Mine was Harry Wilson as well, so I'm sticking with Jack.
No one going with big Carlos Vinicius.
The difficulty with that question is, if Mitro did leave, I would think that we would sign a Mitro replacement and he could well be the top scorer, which is the difficulty with that question.